I was 47 years old at the time of diagnosis, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. I had a vague sense that something might be going on, but I wasn't necessarily feeling sick. I didn't have any of the classic signs of colon cancer. I didn't have colon cancer in my family. I got very sick and was taken to the hospital, and I underwent about an 8-hour surgery to remove my colon and my ovaries. When I finished active treatment, I was on a pretty common schedule for most people with cancer, which was having lab work and scans every 3 months. That carried me through about November of 2018 when unfortunately my scans had verified that the cancer had come back. Going forward, I am now back in active chemotherapy, and the hope is I will do a total of 6 rounds and then have surgery again to hopefully remove any existing cancer. Being myself, somebody who likes to be in charge of everything and really active and controlling things, I realized I could not control anything about cancer. It was really a lot about trusting the plan ahead of me. By far, the thing that definitely got me through, without question, is my faith. I just knew that if I had faith and I had hope, that God would be alongside of me and I would get through it. I just have found that being really honest and just kind of saying to myself, you know, you need to take it easy, you need to rest, it's okay. You know, you don't have there's no expectations on you right now. I would say the thing that gives me hope for a healthier tomorrow is knowing there are so many amazing breakthroughs going on in cancer research. For someone like me with stage 4 cancer that, you know, sometimes you know you might potentially be in it for a long haul, I think the fact that there's people that are not going to give up in that are going to just work every day to really find the cures. I would like to thank for all the support and love my husband, of course, he's been amazing. My children have been amazing. I know even though like 2 of the older ones are away at college, they, you know, they'll ask me, how are you doing, Mom? And I know I'm on their hearts. I want to thank all of my friends. I have an amazing support network of friends. I mean, I have a million people I could thank. And hopefully they all know.
When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was 11. I was in 5th grade. The kind of cancer I had was a medulloblastoma brain tumor. During the treatment, I would like to make slime, paint, play video games, yeah, that sort of stuff, you know. This is my dog, Sammy. He's always been by me, and I love him so much. He sleeps with me every night, curls up by my pillow. Also likes to hog like more than half of my bed, but you know. My favorite subject is probably science. I don't know, I like learning about the animals and stuff in like biology and stuff like that. When I grow up, I want to be a veterinarian zoologist because I've always wanted to be a veterinarian, but I've always wanted to like, you know, be with like animals that are like at the zoo, like more exotic animals. And then I came across that one day and then I was like, that's what's for me. I like to play softball a lot. I play pitcher mainly, and I play first base if they need me. I tried to play as much as I could. Like, I mean, some days I would go right from radiation, like, and get dressed in my ball gear and then go play a game. My dad also coaches my softball team, and you know, the girls this year are actually very supportive. We have a lot of diversity on the team, and I feel it's going to be a good group because nobody makes fun of anybody or for anything, and you know, I think we're going to have a good season this year. It was tough, but I just said prayers and I got through it. I did 8 weeks of radiation and I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy. I mean, I had to miss school when I like wasn't there for like treatment and stuff, but I mean, otherwise I wasn't bad at all. Like, they really like, you know, made sure like what they were giving me was the right amount and stuff like that. Even though it might be tough, you know, like just keep pulling through because you can do it. My dad brought me Chipotle a lot, and my mom was always there at the hospital with me every night. Usually I just, you know, always just reach for my goals. I mean, right now I have a 3.7 grade point average, and I mean, I want to go to Ohio State and really like to get into vet school and go on from there.
I am a chronic lymphocemic leukemia patient. I was 41 when I was diagnosed. I always get these upper respiratory infections, and this particular time it lingered for like 6 months. And I went to the doctor and I demanded blood work. And I said, I just don't feel right, something's not right. Like I can tell I'm off. So we did some blood work, and lo and behold, I had an elevated white blood cell count that was abnormal. They told me I needed to go get my blood work checked, and I did, and I didn't hear anything, so I just assumed it was okay. And then they finally called me and said, you need to go see a hematologist. And I was like, what? So when you go to the doctor and they're going over, we're gonna have to do a couple of tests. You know, it could be Epstein-Barr, it could be HIV, it could be hepatitis, or you could have leukemia. And I'm like thinking, go hepatitis, or, you know, I'm like, who wants hepatitis, but it's better than leukemia? Like that was, who roots for those things? But at the end of the day, my blood work did come back and I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a very slow growing blood cancer. It will never be cured. Right now I'm in the watch and wait phase of what they call treatment, which is nothing. So it's been 5 years, but I do go every 3 months and get my blood work checked. I have to have CT scans every 6 months because when I was initially diagnosed, they did find a tumor. Chronic lymphocytic leukemia is usually diagnosed in 70-year-old men, and I'm not a 70-year-old man. So whenever I go into the offices and I go to my oncologist, I'm like, okay, everyone around me is old. I'm not old. Look at each day, every day different. Every day is gonna be different. Some days you're gonna be on cloud 9 and life is great, and other days you are not even wanna get out of bed. And those days that you don't wanna get out of bed, that's okay. You deserve it. Sit there, read a book, don't do anything. I have an amazing support system. My awesome husband, Todd, and my 2 children, Delaney and Creed, have been so wonderful. The Hill family, I'm so blessed to be a part of such a wonderful family. Our Highland community, our wrestling family, our football family, my daughter's dance community at Once Upon a Dream, my high school friends, and we have another group that I'd love to thank, and that's my village, all my mom friends. I could cry because they've been a godsend to me, and they're nothing but supportive, and I couldn't be more happy to be a part of such a wonderful group of people.
I was 61 when I was first diagnosed. The type of cancer I had was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The diagnosis was actually was found by accident. I went in for a routine prostate exam for somebody as old as me, and there was nothing wrong with the prostate, but the scan showed the lymphoma was sitting there. We went into a wait and see mode for about a year before we saw some changes that required attention, and that's when I started chemo. I've been cancer-free for almost 2 years. Well, what I learned about myself going through this was I still had fight left in me. I had gone through a kind of a harrowing experience with open heart surgery, and a few years following that, I ran the Marine Corps Marathon. So given that, I figured that there's no reason I couldn't get through this. I think that one of the things that really came into play was not letting it get the best of me. I barely missed a day at work. I did learn that there's something to be said for family, friends, prayers. And I think the most important thing was that I couldn't do this myself. Michelle, my wife, read someplace that if I take chemo, I shouldn't be traveling. I shouldn't be getting on airplanes. And that's what I do for a living. And so we came up with the travel test, if you will. And my chemo was always on a Tuesday, and I was on the treadmill on Wednesday running 3 miles to make sure that I was fit enough to travel. So it was really cool to see how people really care. You know, it's not something that you take for granted. I'd like to share just fight the fight. Don't sit back. Don't let it run its course. do whatever you can do, learn whatever you can learn, and the outcome is bound to be better. It was for me. And don't take your friends and family for granted. You know, they're going to be there, and you can count on them. I did, and they were there for me.
I was 47 years old when I was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer. I'm not sure if you're aware of what inflammatory breast cancer is. It is where it attacks your skin cells instead of the inside of your breast. And it's very bright red, and they swell completely abnormally sized than what normal breast would look like from just having a cyst. I went for a mammogram, a diagnostic mammogram, and it was really, really weird, they said, and they were not sure what exactly was going on. So the radiologist ended up looking at it, and immediately they were like, you need to get in to see a surgeon. I was like, okay, why do I need to see a surgeon? And they explained, well, we need to do a biopsy. So I made the appointment. Like a couple days later, the doctor called, and he's like, can you please come in, we need to talk to you. And at that point, I was really scared because I thought, well, this is kind of weird. I mean, I had issues before, but they were never bad. And then he told me I had breast cancer. After all my treatments that I had, the next step was I had a double mastectomy. My surgeon that I went to would not allow me to keep them on. She said with inflammatory breast cancer, even though you can remove one, the likelihood of you getting into the second breast could be very high. And after I had the mastectomy, I had to go for 37 treatments of radiation. Some of the things I learned about myself was, one, I didn't realize how strong I was and how I could make it through things. My faith grew stronger. I didn't flounder from my faith. I actually prayed a lot. I had a lot of people help me pray. My family, my friends, my husband and my daughter really were a very big strength in my recovery and all that kind of stuff. And just, my mom was always there. She wasn't as positive about it because, why me, not her? But just, realizing that I need to be here for my family and not give up. The funny thing is the first day I went in for chemo, I was so scared, but I had to make light of it. I walked into the doctor's office and I go, let's get this chemo on, and I was dancing as I was going into the doctor's office. My daughter and husband cried with me, but after the initial shock of it all, they were troopers. They would push me and tell me, I look beautiful with no hair and no eyebrows and no eyelashes. And my best friends went with me to get my hair cut really, really short to help me through that time. And then I actually shaved it myself after that. But yeah, they were shocked, but they knew I was gonna be okay.
I was diagnosed with melanoma. I just went to the doctor for a normal visit. I didn't think too much of it. When they dug it out, the doctor actually said, oh, it's nothing, I'm sure it's going to be fine. And then they called me about a week after I went back to work, and the doctor told me to run and not walk to the hospital to get it taken care of. We went from appointment to appointment, had it removed, found out that it had spread into my lymph nodes. I don't remember necessarily, like, I did this on this day and this on this day. We just sort of went through, each step as it came. I didn't know very much about staging of cancer at all, and so when they told us, they labeled it, it was stage 3C, which when you look it up, it's a step from palliative care. It's hard for you to be healthy and feel fine, and for someone to tell you you have a 25% chance of living. I had already decided that looking everything up on the internet and trying to find all that information was just going to be overwhelming, and it wasn't going to be any good news, and nothing that I read was going to make me feel better or make me healthy. I remember at year 5, because that was like the magic number. You only have 25% chance to survive, so I hit 5 years. I was like, I'm good, right? And I asked him if I could celebrate, and he said, you never get to celebrate. You just keep coming back and getting scans. We decided that we were going to celebrate, so we did anyways, because, there has to be you have to feel some success after that. My college roommates and I we still get together a couple times every year. We're still very close. So another one of my roommates was also diagnosed recently, and We joked and said, took one for the team, they owe us. I was surrounded by first graders all the time, and they're hilarious. One of my students was quite a talker, and right after I had the surgery and I went back to work, I had the tubes in, the drains, and I put the drains in my pocket, and he reached in my pocket, pulled out my drain, and he said, "Mrs. Slutsky, what is this?" And I couldn't stop giggling. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, at first I was sort of embarrassed. I'm like, well, those are my insides, Michael. Thank you very much. And I put it back in my pocket and we walked on. I'm just glad we all got through it. Like, I would like to high five, you know, in my family and my friends and my school community that, you know, prayed every day for me, so.
I was diagnosed at 37 years old. That was the first time, and I had colon cancer, stage 3. I was in remission for about 7 years, and then got stomach cancer at age 44, and I've been in remission for the last 5 years. It was interesting. So I had some cramping on a weekend, and I thought the physician, I went into a physician office on a Monday, a primary care physician, and they thought I ruptured my appendix. So they thought I was going to do emergency surgery that night. We did a CAT scan. It came back that I had a tumor in my colon. I was in remission for about 7 years, and usually you have a 5–10% chance of getting any type of cancer after 5 years. I just had some discomfort when I was eating, and I thought it was just heartburn, and so my doctor wanted me to just get another scan done, which was probably 3 months later than my previous one, and there was another tumor in my colon, or I'm sorry, my stomach. So this time was probably a little bit challenging because I had to do a Whipple surgery, which is a 9-hour surgery to kind of take everything out and put everything back together, and it was where it was at. They couldn't do any other type of surgery, so it was a little bit more challenging for me personally to go through that and then to be in the hospital for about 25 days and then go through chemo 6 weeks later. So when the first time came around, the second time came around, all I wanted to do was make it to a graduation, make it to the college graduation, make it to their weddings and stuff like that. So you think about all those things emotionally going through that. Are you going to get to those points knowing that you have cancer and that it could come back anytime? If I have to give any advice, I'd say live day by day and make a bucket list and do the things that you want to do in life and do it. And don't just not write it down, just go and do it. You know, you want to travel, go travel. Cancer can take a lot away from your physical abilities at times, but it can't take away your mind. And I think you have to have hope no matter how it looks. And like I said, you have to be positive on on the outlook of life. I have hope that maybe my company will continue to develop products, and they continue to do that. And other companies continue to develop products so there's the cure for cancer. Plenty of people to thank. I'll probably forget people. My mom, my kids, my girlfriend Jen. I mean, they've been through it thick and thin. They're still going through it with me. I have a good group of college guys that I went to college with that have been supportive in every sense of being supportive for me, and there's just so many people, my work people. I mean, I've been through this with Bayer now twice, and we've had the same team pretty much for the last 10 years, so all the people that I work with have been supportive and been there for me and my family, so.
Diagnostic time, I was 59 and a half, and I've had cancer for 2 years. I went to the restroom, and it was not good after I got out of there. And so I realized there was something wrong. And so I called my doctor's office like that Monday, and they got me in right away, and I had blood in my urine. They found a huge mass on my bladder. And he said, normally I would wait, but we're gonna have surgery on you tomorrow. And my husband came home. He's like, well, what's going on? I told him. He's like, so you have cancer? Yep. So what do you want to do? I'm like, let's go to Wolf Creek Winery and have a glass of wine. And that's what we did. In the last 20 months, I've had 3 surgeries, and I just finished my last chemo for 6 weeks 2 days ago. The good thing about bladder cancer is if you get it early, it won't kill you, but it comes back all the time. So I will always have bladder cancer. And you know, there's 2 different roads you can go. You can go the road of I hate it, and I'm not going to accept it, or there's the road that I accept it, I'm going to make my life the best I can be. And I've determined to go on this road. I think what I've learned is over the last few years, we've been into your functions, and I've seen people up there talking about, you know, cancer and what that's done to them. And I always thought, like, how can they be like that? Like, it's got to be so tough. And then I realized when I got cancer is you become stronger than you think you are. And that's what happened with me. What gave me the strength to go through my treatments was knowing that I had to do it so my cancer would go away for a while. And the other thing is I needed to have some control in my life. And so me accepting the fact that I didn't have to have cancer treatment, but it gave me, I felt like that gave me some power in my own life that I could control that. And I believe between my husband and God, they have given me the strength to be able to deal with this. I would say that every day when you wake up, know that it's a blessed day. And that no matter how you feel or how sick you are, it's always a good day because you wake up.
When I was diagnosed, I was 24 years old. First of all, I was a personal trainer, wellness director. I was very healthy, and I started noticing some minor back pains throughout the summer. And I ended up waking up and puking up blood then. And of course, me being stomach still, I decided to kind of let it go. So a couple days later, I said, you know, it could just be a flu. I could have had food poisoning. I started puking up blood again. So eventually my parents gave me no option. I ended up going to the hospital, and they first believed it was an ulcer that was in my stomach, so they went to go check it out. And when they did so, they found an 11-centimeter tumor in my small intestine. Once they finally discovered it was testicular cancer, they actually found out it was the highest stage of testicular cancer as well, and it made things a little more complicated. So right down there, they brought me to one of the oncologists, and they put me on 3 different types of chemotherapy. After my treatment was over, there's a turkey trot every year where probably roughly 10,000 people go out and run a 5 or 10K. And what my dad decided to do was get a bunch of my friends and family together to come just kind of support and, you know, show respect and just kind of cheer for me finishing my rounds of chemo. And we didn't know how many people were going to show up, and we ended up getting over 400 people at this event. It was almost breathtaking just to kind of get to see everybody. We brought shirts for everyone. When I was going through chemo, I was losing my hair at the time, but I decided to keep my mustache growing. And unfortunately, I'm not the type of person who can really grow a mustache, so all of my friends thought it was hilarious, so they all decided to grow mustaches. The event that my dad put on, we ended up naming it Mustaches for Matt. All of my friends, all of my family, girls wore fake mustaches, guys wore, you know, just if they could grow them, they would grow them. When you go through tough times, you don't realize how many people are there for you. It's almost unexplainable how much support I had and how grateful I am to just have those people in my life. I had also been dating my girlfriend for only 2 to 3 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't know what to expect because putting that pressure on her was almost unfair. She didn't even flinch one bit. She was my rock and the person who gave me the most joy throughout it, because she was there every step of the way, and every day that I felt down, she was there to build me up. And on top of that, obviously my amazing friends, family, and parents as well.